How are you? I'm really confused on how you're protecting children, but you're pro-choice.
I can be pro-choice and want to protect the children that are here.
What makes us think that we are any better than animals? Like, as far as is life, shouldn't life matter more when it's a human life than it should when it's an animal life? So when I argue that if there was a box of puppies and they were abandoned, and 9 out of 10 people, 10 out of 10 people are going to stop and give some assistance to these dogs, even if they can't take them themselves, they're going to try to find homes for them. It's because you're a decent person, right? So I could argue that you're pro-life and you want to see these puppies succeed. Pro-choice would just be like, well, I have the option to save the babies or not. If it's a drain on my wallet, it's a drain on me, it's a drain on the economy, then I just can just unalive these. So then, is an animal more valuable than a human?
The puppies are living and breathing and already here.
Right, but they can't survive
If
on their
someone
own.
wants to,
The
correct, but
whole
someone
idea is
else can
they
take
can't
care of
survive on
them.
their self out of their womb by themselves. Therefore, that's kind of like, now I'm not saying that it's human life, but what I'm saying is human life
I
should be
get what you're
more
getting
important
at,
than those puppies, right?
but someone else can take care of them at that point. They're already out of the
And somebody,
mother.
right. And so when it comes down to a moral obligation, or it comes down to a legal right or obligation, like legally, you would be found, if you walked off and left those puppies, you would be found guilty of animal neglect, and that's abuse as far as the law is concerned.
Yeah, and
So
if
why
you
would it
leave a
be any
child
different?
on the
Right.
side of the street, you're guilty of child neglect and abandonment.
Shouldn't a human have a chance to develop more than, like, say, a puppy? Shouldn't it have just the same chance at life?
You do know that animals can have abortions and they have them every day, right?
Yeah, but not on the level of which they protect their young, which is a great higher rate,
You do know
right?
they also eat their young when they get overwhelmed, right?
Yeah, it's an anxiety issue and a psychological issue for the animal. Humans also suffer postpartum depression. So then brain dead people, they don't have a right to
So
life if they can come back from that, or how does that work? What do you think
you
about
can't
people?
come back once your brain is dead.
That's not true. You sure can. It happens all the time. People that are supposed to
Brain
don't
dead
have brain
people.
stuff. No, it happens all the time. Ask any
No,
neurologist. Your answer then is abortion.
no. My answer is if I don't want to have a child and I am pregnant, I have the right to choose what I'm doing with my body.
No, you don't. Because it stops being about you once you procreate. It's about your
I
life
have
and your learning and your development until you have a baby. Then that cycle is done for you, and then all you're doing after that is taking care of a baby. See, that's how it works.
so my life is
How life
over. I
works.
have no right to do anything anymore because I have a child.
Pretty much, your job is taking care of that child until it's able to take care of itself. That's exactly right. Some people would say, I'm going to die giving birth because the baby's more important than me.
If I die,
You're
if
just
I'm
selfish.
pregnant and I'm gonna die,
You're
save
just
me, not the
selfish.
baby. I'm not leaving my son motherless.
You're just a selfish person. That because I had a choice and I can just do that. Well, don't you think that that's a pretty selfish choice? Even if I admit that it is
Wait,
your choice,
wait.
don't you think that that's a pretty selfish choice?
No,
Then why did you have your child?
because I wanted that child.
It's in a circle, man.
Yeah, can I have the argument as to why there's an obligation?
Oh no, you've got Ukraine in your picture. It shows me who you care about, but it's not Americans. So I don't talk to people that
Yeah,
don't.
Well,
Hello.
is anyone here pro-life? No?
Oh, I'm not.
Obviously, you shouldn't have to live with a baby that came out of a bad circumstance. But my thing is, if you're old enough to have sex, you're old enough to have a baby.
So you think 13-year-olds that are having sex
Hmm.
should have babies?
If
I
they
was
make
about
the
to
choice
say,
to have sex and they're not using protection or they're not on birth control, then yes, they need to take responsibility for their actions.
okay. So there's a few responses we can give out. For one, a little bit over half of abortions are caused by pregnancies where birth control is used. But even when that isn't the case, why is there an obligation to the fetus that exists?
So even if you're on birth control or whatever, you should still be using protection because there are multiple studies out there that will tell you that birth control will not, cannot promise you 110% that you are not going to get pregnant.
Why
You should
should they
always
be using
take
protection?
extra precautions. If you do not want a child and if you do not want to take responsibility, once again, consequences of your own actions.
Well, yeah,
Well,
yeah. So there's like
wait.
consequences. Like if I eat too many cheeseburgers, right, I'm gonna get fucking like diabetes and shit, right?
Okay, so why does engaging in an action with a possible consequence lead to an obligation?
You broke out. What?
Why does engaging in an action with a possible outcome that you don't agree to lead to an obligation?
If you don't agree to it, you don't have to carry it. I said that at the beginning.
You're not answering the question. I'm asking why is there an obligation?
To take care of the child you got pregnant with?
To take care of the embryo or fetus. Like I would prefer if you don't use like rhetoric to make a question sound dumb. Can you just answer the question?
Because you made the decision. If you don't want to take care of the fetus, it's not if you don't want to be obligated to take
Can
care
you
of
give me can you
Wait,
give me
wait,
like an
wait,
example?
wait, Moose.
Okay, yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think we're just circling now. Every time I ask you why does causation lead to an obligation, or why is there an obligation, you just say causation. And now I'm trying to ask you why does the fact that you engage in this action with a possible negative risk lead to an outcome where you have an obligation? It seems like you just circled back to your own child. When I asked you what does that matter? You say because of like causal obligation, right? So it seems like we're just going in a circle. Can we have like an explanation as to why
Okay.
this causation matters to an obligation?
So why are you okay, so technically what you're asking me is why are you obligated to take care of a fetus?
Correct.
Because you are in those activities of making a baby and you are not taking extra steps for protection or anything, you are obligated to take care of that child. And even if you don't want to take care of that child, there's adoption centers. I know there's many people, like I have multiple people in my lives who can't get pregnant that are more than happy to take any fucking baby they can get.
Once again, as to why creating the state of dependency or why engaging in these actions leads to an obligation, right? I've asked this numerous times. Like, why does this matter? Why does causation matter?
Okay, so I've asked you the same question, or I've asked you, this is what you're asking 6 times. I gave you an answer, and you keep asking the question. Do you want to have
You have not. All right,
I
give
have.
the
I
answer
said
then. You have not given any answer.
I said they are obligated because they are the ones that didn't use protection and are having unprotected sex, knowing the possibilities of you getting pregnant.
You're just restating your premise. Wait. You're just restating your premise, right? I'm asking you, why does engaging in the action which has this risk lead to an obligation? And you're just restating, since you engage in this action has this possible risk, therefore you have an obligation. I understand you believe that, right? The issue is that I disagree with that. I don't think that just because you engage in the action which has that risk that you have an obligation, right? Every time I ask you, why does causation lead to an obligation? You just restate that causation leads to an obligation. That's what I'm asking for justification for in the first.
Okay, so you both
Yes.
guys agree that if a drunk driver kills a or kills parents, then they should be able to they should pay the child support for the children.
Sure.
Yes, because they're already here and living. Like they're already born. They already have lives established.
Oh, that baby is it's a human, okay? It's a human. So why should it be different in this circumstance?
Yeah, because when you crash into somebody's car, you are violating their rights and damaging their property. Crashing into someone and violating their rights is not analogous to having sex and conceiving a child. Do you think
Okay.
conceiving a child is violating their rights?
No.
Then I don't see why there would be an obligation there. For me, an obligation arises when there's a rights violation, like a car accident, or if you break a contract somehow. So I don't see why causing something in the form of a conception would create an obligation. That's what Josh is
Well,
trying to
yeah,
ask.
that's what we're circling around to, and every time I ask
Yeah.
that question, it's just being restated that causation leads to an obligation. So we're just getting circular answers.
So once again, with like the drunk driver having to pay child support, it's the consequences of their own actions. Get someone pregnant, it is the consequences of your own actions.
Yes, but in the drunk driving example, their actions are a rights violation, right?